All right, every week on my podcast, we bring on a guest, and I'm really excited about the guest I had this week. Really doesn't need any introduction. And oh, by the way, I'll remind everyone, our show is sponsored by Work Center at the University of Oklahoma, continuing education at its finest, and also Chalmers Wellness. Go see Dr. Chalmers in Frisco, Texas. Visit his website at chalmerswellness.com. All right, as I mentioned, this guy is legendary to me. He means so much to me, and more than just a relationship as a coach, just a person that I'm sure there's thousands of former players and thousands of fans would be that lifeline call. So let's bring him in. No introduction, as I mentioned, one of the winningest coaches in college football, 157 wins. I mean, I got all his resume, but the most highlighted ones, the most coveted ones, 157, 29-4 in college football, won 3 national championships, was 40-24 in the NFL regular season, took the Dallas Cowboys to the last Super Bowl win. Yes, last Super Bowl win. That would be Hall of Famer Coach Barry Switzer, as I mentioned, more Hall of Famer. Mahari. Coach, first of all, thanks a lot for joining me on my podcast.
All right, Tony, good to be with you. And always, we've done many of these through the years, maybe more radio than podcasts. I've done very few of these, but it's good to be with you always.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it, the way we do broadcasts and interviews via Zoom? And you were telling me you're doing the interview in your office, and you got so much memorabilia. And I want to bring up one thing. The last time I was there, man, that looks pretty cool. It's amazing what you have in there. It's just everything is just historical, and just it's amazing what you have. But the last time I was there, Coach, I was sitting in your office talking to you. My son's a junior at the University of Oklahoma. I had a chance to come visit you. And you showed me a Mickey Mantle baseball card. Would you like to elaborate on that? And you told me, you said, hey, Tony, this is – and you showed me a picture of you and Mickey Mantle and a couple other people in the picture. But at the very bottom, you had a Mickey Mantle rookie card. And you're like, I don't know how much it's worth. I'm thinking, did you ever find out the value?
No, I never have. Of course, all it says is I've lived long enough. I've lived a lot longer than a lot of people. I'm in my 80s now, and I'm very fortunate. Tony, I've lost 40 players since 2000. That's a tragic. That's the one thing that when you live a long time, you're gonna have a lot of loss of relationships, and it's getting to be for a lot of players. I'm really losing monthly usually now. So, but I enjoyed my relationship with all of them, and you and all of us. We had a great time while we were here. It was a great run we had, and not only here, but we got you back at Dallas. We hope we'd win another one down there. But anyway, we both had great careers, and you certainly did, college and professional.
Well, I will say this: this show will be broadcast next week, which would be on a Friday. I'm sorry, a Wednesday, and the Cowboys. We're recording today, which is Friday, and had a chance to watch the Cowboys play on Thursday night. I mean, that was a bizarre game. Just any team could have won. But I said this, Coach, because I mentioned last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowls when your last in 1995. But it seems to me we keep saying there's this moral satisfaction of like, oh, well, it was a close game because they expected the Bucs to Tampa Bay to blow them out. But when do you think we're going to get over this hump as far as the satisfaction and really just being able to beat teams like Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Hey, Tony, that's a tough. They're Super Bowl champions, and obviously they're a talented football team. And as we were back in your era, back when I was there, we were more talented than the rest of the league. It was just the beginning, the infancy of free agency at that point in time. Players are starting to be siphoned off from teams. But we were really a talented team. The Herschel Walker trade had got the Dallas Cowboys all those picks, and it was they were able to build a formidable team from it. And when you draft Aikman and Emmett and Michael Irvin and then add in all the other players. You got those triplets, and you add in all the other players that they were able to combine with the draft choices they had. They became a formidable team, and until they got old and they wore out.
Damn, doesn't that suck getting old?
Yeah, everybody starts getting old. We all wear out at some point in time, but that team had a great run in the '90s, early '90s. They were a dominant football team in the league. Them in San Francisco. So really, everyone's kind of had their run, and the thing that really amazed me was that I've always said that the quarterback, Tampa Bay's quarterback is the good one, the great one, and all. But he proved it by going to Tampa Bay and winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and that was really something. No one anticipated him taking that position, leaving New England and going there, that he would be the Super Bowl champion. You just didn't believe that's going to happen, but he made it happen.
I mean, you've been around a lot of players. To see someone do that at the 44 years of age, I mean, that's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. But he raised the level of play everybody around him. When you have a guy like that, it happened at Oklahoma. You guys, when you played, we led the nation 3 consecutive years in a row in defense, and I think it makes an average player above average player that plays beside good players and great players. It's just expected of them. It raises their ability and talent. They play up to a level greater than they would be if they were on an average team. Average players play average around average players. Average players play better around great players, and that's what I'm basically trying to say.
Before I brought you on the show, I mean, there's so much. You're such an interesting person. You've lived and you've coached so many great teams and affected so many players, and just your ability to communicate with people. You're a very charismatic guy, but one of the quotes that really caught me that was, and I always wonder how the great leaders, especially coaches, come up with these quotes. But I just read one, which just made me laugh. And I have to read it. This is what you said. It was like a heart transplant. We tried to implant college in him, but his head rejected it. And I'm thinking, that's like, I never read that one.
Hey, I had a bunch of like that now, Tony. That's right.
But to me, I mean, is that like one of your top five? I mean, there's also, obviously it was a horrible, terrible, atrocious offensive football game. And then some people are born on the third base and go through life thinking hit it. I mean,
they don't know how hard it is to get on first. Yeah, that's true. I've seen people like that are born on third base, and some people, use it the best way. But there are those that are born on third base that go through life thinking they hit a triple, and it all came down to who they were and where they were, and who their mom and dad happened to be. But it's hard to get on first base and work your way around the second, third to get home. I promise you, in this world.
Oh, the heart transplant. That's a pretty good one, Coach. That is epic. There, when I read that, I just like, that is so great.
Body accepted stuff like that. Yeah.
It's a successful coach in college, and I just had the opportunity to play for you, and you had played 3 national championships. You had 157 wins. It probably didn't end like you wanted to end. I mean, I want to recommend anyone that's never read your book, Bootlegger Boy. It's an amazing book. I mean, it's one of my favorite books. It's got a lot of pictures, so I have a tendency to read more books with pictures in it. No, I'm just kidding. Right. But I remember the whole fate of what happened with your career at Oklahoma. But some of the relationships that you had, is there one particular recruiting story that you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I had many of those. Recruiting is the key, obviously, recruiting great talent. We had a good product to sell at the University of Oklahoma. We were winning championships every year, contending for national championships. So we were attractive to the top players in this part of the country and in Texas and everywhere. So I was always thinking about recruiting the next great one. And I remember we were playing at Colorado. This is Tony. Hell, you were back in the grade school at Tulsa Central. You had to be, because this is 74. In 1974, I'm at Colorado. We're playing Colorado. And I had Joe Washington and I had the Selman brothers. I had a great football team. In fact, we went undefeated. We were national champions that year. And we were playing Colorado there. And at the halftime, it was 28-0. We're leading. And they hadn't even made a first down. So we come in at halftime and I yell at the offense, "Hey, great job, keep it up." And the defense was on the other side of the room with their coaches. And I say, "Defense playing great. They had made a first down, keep it up the second half." And I got to go recruit. So I went over a payphone. There's a payphone in the locker room in Colorado. I took a nickel from my hunting fishing coach gave me a nickel. And I took a nickel and I put it in that payphone, dialed 0. He got the operator. I told the operator I want to charge a long distance call to my office in Norman, Oklahoma. This is back when you could do that. This is a different time. So they accepted. They took my phone number, in Norman, Oklahoma, my office phone number, and I called CJ's Conoco Service Station in Hooks, Texas. It's on I-30 coming out of Texarkana. I'm calling Billy Sims, the number 1 player in the state of Texas. He's a halfback that works on Saturdays at CJ's Conoco Service Station. And CJ answers the phone. I said, "CJ, I need to talk to Billy." He says, "Well, Billy's pumping gas now. Aren't you at the ball game?" I said, "Yeah, I'm at the ball game." So I said, "Go out there and pump gas. Let Billy come in and talk to me." And CJ yells at Billy. I can hear him yell. He said, "Billy, coach is on the phone." "Well, he's in Colorado." "No, he's on the phone. He wants to talk to you right now." So he comes in, he gets on the phone, and we talk for 20 minutes. And I forgot what time it was. I forgot what we were playing a game. And all of a sudden, the referee taps me on the shoulder. And after about 20 minutes, the coach, he said, "Hey, coach, we're going to kick off in 5 minutes. You got to get your team back out on the field." And I said, "Billy, you hear that? We got to go finish this ass kick. When I get back home tonight in Oklahoma, I'll give you a call when we're back." So I knew that Billy knew I couldn't be talking to anybody else. I'm here.
Wow.
I know I'm playing a game. It's halftime, Oklahoma, Colorado, and I'm on the phone with him the entire halftime. And I'm talking to my team, which I really didn't need to. Players we had. And,
that was kind of like autopilot. But you can't make that story up. That's so authentic.
It's the thing you do. You're always thinking, what can you do in recruiting? When Billy visited our campus, I took him over to my house to meet my family and my kids, and they all come running out with number 20 on, which was his number. But not only they have 20 on the back plate of the jersey, had the name, they had Sims on there. I said, "Look, Billy, they're already selling your jersey." So,
hey, Coach, you were just ahead of your time. I always think that you thought ahead of everyone else, right?
Always trying to make a difference, separate yourself. Yeah. But
that was an amazing story. And obviously, the rest is history with Billy Sims. Just a remarkable career, Heisman Trophy winner.
Year before, I tried the same thing with Earl Campbell. I thought I was going to get Earl too, but we lost him at the last minute.
So, how close was it with Earl in Texas?
Oh my gosh! Back in that era, Tony, in the '70s, no one ever considered anyone that a great player wanted to play and do great things. Wanted to play on championship teams, contend for national championships. There were only 2 places to go. That was Oklahoma and Texas back in. And so that's why we were so successful recruiting great players out of Texas. And I've always said, we recruited so well, and I wanted to recruit so well in Texas because I wanted to give them a chance to win championships too down there.
That's another quote. That's another Barry Switzer quote. Right. True story. True story.
Make sure they had a chance to win championships. So we recruited Texas hard, and of course they had some great players come out of there. And we'd gotten Joe Washington in '72 was the number 1 player in the state. Earl Campbell in '73 was number 1. Billy Sims in '74 was number 1. Jack Mildren was in '67 was number 1. We got him. We got Joe Wiley the next year in '68, and he was number 1 out of Henderson, Texas. And we've recruited some of the greatest players that ever came out of Texas, and a lot of them, and that's the success of Oklahoma's because of Texas players. If we didn't have Texas sitting 100 miles here south of the Red River, we wouldn't have the tradition in college football. Think about proximity to talent.
Yeah.
If we were sitting at Miami, Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma was Miami, Oklahoma, up on the Kansas and Missouri line border, we'd probably have a record like Kansas. You know what I mean? Missouri, we'd be an average football team. But we're going to the SEC now. There'll be no Kansas to play anymore.
I know. I would get to that. Hey, one of the questions I was going to ask you is if you, in talking about recruiting, and you did it so great, and just it's a way you built your legacy with great players and relationships. Where would you see Barry Switzer in modern day football as far as a coach and as far as recruiting goes?
Well, first of all, I would adjust to what they're doing today. I would still be running an option football team out of the spread. I'd use movement to get to a 3-back principle in the corner where I'd outflank. See, in football, you got 11 players. That's an odd. Mm-hmm. So you got one more player one side of the ball than you have the other side of the ball. And formations dictate that. Offensive formations can dictate that. But movement and alignments can also allow you to take advantage of the short side of the field. And where they lack the 11th player, the 6th player. So I would do things like that. I've already drawn up a playbook where you would run the triple option offense out of the movement and spread formations and still throw the football and have the threat of the passing game and make people play hybrid players, but you'd still be running the damn football against them. And it'd be interesting. And I think that game is not utilized yet. There's a few people that still try to run the option plays, and they're successful with it. But the spread is what everybody does today. And I've always said college football has had more influence on professional football than professional football has ever had on college football. That's what everybody's doing today. Even pro football is doing what the college game has been doing for the last decade, and doing the same type of athletes. They're recruiting our quarterbacks to come right away, immediately play in that scheme. And you see it with Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and the guy at Kansas City. So,
these Mahomes, it's all about the scheme.
So, it's the scheme has changed, the college scheme and the pro game, and it's all exciting. But the talent level is still there. I think back when you played. We were a very talented football team. Tony, that team, we won the national championship with you, and you were a senior. We 8 of those people on that team are in the College Football Hall of Fame. I
know. Yeah, we had tremendous. We had a hell of a roster.
Really, yeah, it really was. And I think about you and Ricky Dixon, the 5th player in the draft, Keith Jackson, and we had so many players. You're the 2nd player picked in the draft. And I think about all the collection of y'all players at one time. We're all together there. And it's, and if Marcus Dupree hadn't left, think about that. If Marcus would have stayed, it was his senior year when we won the national championship. We beat Penn State, undefeated Penn State in the Orange Bowl. That, how good we had been. You were drafted number 2, and it'd been between you and Marcus. And what's the guy? Who's the guy from Auburn? The guy
Bo Jackson.
Yeah, Bo Jackson. Y'all were the 3 top players in the country then. Yeah. But it would have been interesting. But hell, we didn't need him. We won anyway, in spite of losing his ass. Yeah. Well, let me ask you. By the way, Oklahoma's recruiting. Get this. Marcus called me the other day. He's coming by. He's here this weekend because they're recruiting his grandson to be a receiver at OU.
That puts everything in perspective, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. He played for me in the '80s, and he's got grandkids. That's recruiting to college. Yeah,
I'm not quite there, but I'm. My son's getting married, so that's what my wife really wants to happen fast, having grandkids. Marcus Dupree. Everyone asked me. I was doing a hit yesterday, and they're asking me about players that you played with that really didn't reach their potential. And that guy right there, I mean, it's been highly documented, Marcus Dupree. I had never seen anybody physically head and shoulders above everyone else, but unfortunately just didn't have that gear to really just you kind of coexist and do the things you need to do to be a college athlete.
We never had to. He was the most gifted player when he went on the field in 7th and 8th grade. He was a dominant player then. Everything came easy to him. It was a gift, and he was never pushed. He was never really challenged, and he just didn't know. The key thing of why players play, I've always said, and why you play in college quicker than anything is 2 things. You know how to practice, and you're smart. Because every one of you were recruited because you had the ability to play. Mm-hmm. You were recruited to play that position. You would never been offered a scholarship if you didn't have the damn ability to play it. But what separates them is how smart they are and knowing how to practice. And those are the guys that play quicker than anybody else. And that's what separates them. And he didn't know how to do that. He never had to push himself, practice hard. It was all a gift. It came easy for him. But truly, he was the most talented guy I'd ever seen. It. First time he touched it, he takes it to the house. And every game he played in as a freshman, he went 70 or 80 or 90 yards for touchdowns. I mean, it was
ridiculous. So I remember this. I was in Norman, and I coincidentally pulled up to you next to my car, and you were driving, and you had your German Shepherd because you have 2, 3 German Shepherds?
I had 4 till we lost 2 this year. I've got 3 left now in the house.
But I remember. I pulled up next.
Listen to it. See that one right there?
Oh man, that's a dog's life right there, man.
Look over there. Look over there on the floor. There's another one over there.
That's exactly like my wife's office, man.
Both up, bro.
But I remember you told me. I pulled up and he was like had his big head out the window and he goes, "Hey," he put the window down. He said, "Hey, Tony, how would you like to have this guy rush the damn passer?"
That's right. He gets
But I was like, okay, Coach Switzer, we need a badass dog like that to get some pass rush. So the question I want to ask you is that we talk about the comparison of our era. We mentioned our great defense. I mean, we're a badass. I mean, in the 1980s, 85, I mean, you coached some tremendous players. But I always tell everyone, maybe it's just my old school and just my mentality to say that we were really, really good. It didn't matter what era we played. How would you match that defense up against some of these schematic offenses? Let's say Oklahoma. If we had the scrimmage against Oklahoma's live and you took that 85 national championship defense and put it up against, let's say, Alabama's their offense in just the modern day, who would win that matchup?
Well, here's the thing.
And I know it's different.
A lot of guys that we had playing couldn't be on the field today because they'd have to have hybrid players out there because it's formations. That's the key. Back in our era, it was people ran the football more, and more of it was a flanker to split in. You always had a tight end. So we could have 7 in the box or 6 in the box. Today you don't do that. I mean, today you've got to have guys that are playing Willie and Sam that are cornerback speed, and you got to have the ability for them to play the running game too. Now that's hard to find, that kind of guy. We had great defensive ends and Darrell Reed, and Troy Johnson and Keith, Kevin Murphy. Those guys were great players. They all played pro ball, but let me tell you, that they wouldn't be able to play. They'd have to be rush guys today. They have to get a little bigger and get down because they could go play coverage. They didn't have the speed and agility and the quickness to play coverage against the wideouts. And that's what happens with these schemes you got today. You don't get to play the forcing units we played back our era. We were basically 6 and 7 man forcing unit and 4 deep secondary. You don't get to play that anymore. You certainly don't get to play it when you play a wishbone team. So it's a different schematics today, and both offense and defense.
Hey, Coach, you're running my answer. I always tell them there's no way. It doesn't matter what era. We still dominate their ass.
We would be damn. You're right. Good. You look how they were drafted. Like I told you, you were the second player. We had who was the third? We had a third player picked there. And
Brian Bosworth was
held. He's a 1, 2, 3 if he stayed in the draft. And Bosworth, Dante Jones was first round pick. He played 5 or 6 years for Green Bay or Chicago. And Keith Jackson was Rookie of the Year, NFL Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. We had a lot of great players, but on defense, we were really good. And at linebacker and our pass rushers, defensive ends, that's what Tom Osborne said. The reason I couldn't beat you, I couldn't get outside your ends. Your ends
too much speed, man.
Well, they were too good. We couldn't block them, and they could contain us. But anyway,
so you were all of your coaches, and I think that's what you're so great at: delegate, have great assistant coaches. But it seems to me that the aspect of technique, especially on defense, is something that we were really good at. And let's take Oklahoma's defense. And you mentioned it's a different scheme, but you don't seem to pay attention to detail. And maybe I'm being a little bit more, critical. But you don't see the technique aspect, especially when it comes to playing defensive line. And obviously the tackling is totally different. But you just don't see that aspect in college football anymore. Agree or disagree?
Well, we don't teach defensive linemen to read blocks anymore. We're got calls and make them have a rush gap responsibility, and they can haul ass coming after the passer because it's so important to rush the passer and get a step on that ball snap to be able to get off the ball and be coming. If you play old Okie defense, if you sit there and wait for the offensive lineman to do something, then you react to what he does, you never get to the quarterback. You can never rush the passer. So the game has changed that aspect because they throw the ball so much today. Your defenses have to change. You have to change because of the offense. And so sitting and learning how to read blocks, a 2 technique, a 3 technique, a 4 technique responsibility, and reacting to the blocker in front of you, playing those techniques, it's very difficult today. You got to do it on the come. You got to be on snap, coming toward the quarterback. So you got to read on the run.
Okay, I got a couple. We did a couple of segments on my show. The first one is called X's and O's, and this is nothing but this is human being stuff, man. So I'm just going to ask you a question. And by the way, this segment is sponsored by Work Sooner at the University of Oklahoma. It's all about continuing education. Check out Work Sooner, as I mentioned, at the University of Oklahoma. All right, Coach. One of the things that I asked you, it was last year right before the Super Bowl. You called me and you're upset because someone didn't mention me as being a guy that was multiple Super Bowl winner. And so we got in a conversation about the upcoming Super Bowl, Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. And I asked you, I said, hey, Coach, you played in both games. You coached, you won a Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys. As I mentioned, you won 3 national championships. What did you enjoy most? What was the bigger moment? And you told me it was being a college coach. And I want you to –
college coach. You're dealing with 17, 18-year-old kids. You recruit them. You know who they are. You know what you're getting. You know whether there's a daddy in the home. You know how many siblings they had. You're taking young men and developing young men and to be productive citizens the next 40, 50, 60 years of living. Pro football is about nothing but going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. And they got these guys are making more money than they'll ever make the rest of their life. You don't have any influence on their life. You're not there to teach them anything about, or your assistant coaches aren't there to teach them about what to expect in life. I've always told my coaches will help you more than any damn book you'll ever carry to campus and any class you carry. If you spend the time with them, they'll teach you about what can be successful in life and give you a better chance to succeed if you just pay attention to them and listen to them. But you don't need to do that in pro football. They'd laugh at your ass if you talk to them like that. They're making $500,000 and the last guy on the team, the 53rd guy on the team. And so it's all about being on the roster and playing the game and how you play it and keep off the waiver wire that day. Tony, when we won the Super Bowl in 95, next year there were 14 players that weren't on that team that won at 95. Why? Because draft choices and free agencies beat them out and they couldn't make our team. We had to cut. They weren't on the team. I don't know where they are today. I don't even know their names today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not true in college. I know everyone of them. I knew their mamas or daddies if they had a daddy. right there. It's just that you are part of their life, and that's why college coaches always have their players call them, because that's who they turn to. You don't turn to your pro coach. Call your pro coach. You got a problem? You probably had some damn you don't know, and they ain't gonna help you anyway. You know what I mean?
And that's what I tell everyone. I always ask them about you, and I said, "This is just a great person, man. I mean, you remember everyone. I mean, like you said, you have there's the list of guys you coach and play for you are endless, and they still can call you up. And you remember the thing that I to this day, and maybe it's because I've been hit in the head too many times. How do you remember everything? I mean, you got the best memory, the elephant. I mean, how do you remember all this stuff, Coach?
Well, it's
amazing.
It's not what they see on what you see on TV today. That Preg, whatever it is, I can't remember. But I just you lived it, you live life, and you live it, and you remember it. I've been able to retain it and keep it. And football games or just things that happen to occur that people bring up. But I have a vivid memory of them, and for detail too. It's always been key for me. But I've been very fortunate. I'm 84 years old and still rocking pretty good. So
still going strong. And I also I wanted to ask you about your wine. I know you're an entrepreneur. You do a lot of things, but tell us about your wine. I mean, I've tasted it before. I mean, you have a red, a Merlot, a Cab. Which one do you like?
I've got the Cabernet. We get this Napa Valley. Napa Wine Company produces it for us. We had some acreage out there that we lease from them. You can't afford to buy any damn thing out there. So expensive. Can't afford it. And we buy our grapes from them, and we use their winemaker. We make a Switzer family vineyard Cabernet. It's good. I'd rather drink a Pinot Noir because it's only about 13% alcohol. My Cab's about 15%. I can drink more Pinot than I drink Cab. And but we have a Sauvignon Blanc that's a good wine. I like that, but we don't have enough acreage to do enough quantity or volume to have it nationally. We only sold it in Dallas, in the Texas area, and Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. And so, we only make 700-800 cases a year because we only had about 20 acres of leased land out there. But it still make several thousand cases.
Yeah. All right. So last one. Who is the most influential person in your life?
Gee, I guess I can say coaches, but people say their family, their father or mother. I think they all have an influence on us. But I look back at my era growing up with my dad. My dad was in an era when dads didn't come up and hug you and kiss you and tell you they love you and anything. I grew up in the 30s and 40s and in college in the 50s, and it was a different era. And I think the most influential people on me was certainly my coaches, my high school coaches and my college coaches. I had a great relationship with them. I wouldn't be in coaching if it hadn't been for Frank Boyles. I don't know what the hell. I'd probably be working at Walmart. I'd be in Bentonville. I went to the University of Arkansas, graduated with a business degree. Hell, half the CEOs the first 20 years of Walmart I was in school with at Arkansas. And so I would have been one of Mr. Sam's boys. I knew Mr. Sam and when I was playing and coaching at Arkansas. And he's just getting started.
So you mentioned
with Don Tyson. I was in school with Don Tyson Chicken.
Hey, think about the people that you guys traveled the same routes as far as Arkansas, and that the people that you were I guess around and that were part of that whole Arkansas, if you will, turnpike. I mean, you talk about Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, some of the coaches you mentioned, Tyson. How small a group fraternity was that? And look at how successful they were.
They were. You take the Stevens group, Jack Stevens out of Little Rock, and Stevens Investments, second largest privately owned investment group besides what Edwards in the United States. And they're out of Little Rock. And obviously you have JB Hunt. So many companies, because of Walmart, became very successful, big companies. But Tyson died, became the Chicken King, and obviously his daddy started the company, but he's the one that took it to where it was. But he was a little older than I am, but we were still in college together, spent some time together. And, it was a different time. It made Frank Broyles a very wealthy man. Hey, I'm a guy that had 100 original shares of Walmart stock. I was told to put just 100 shares in my locker box and forget about it. Well, I was a dumbass assistant coach, 25, 26 years old.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had 100 original shares of Walmart. And
what would those be worth? What would those be worth today?
$50 million. I don't know. It split so many times. I don't know how many shares I'd had today. But if I'd forgotten about it and be in my locker box, I wouldn't be talking to your ass right now.
Well, hey, I just wanted, so in the background, I could see your Arkansas letter jacket. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's my Arkansas letter jacket back when I played. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. All right, Coach. I got one last one for you. I've been saying that because I know that you took the time to be on here. What do you think about the move from Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC? Is it all about the money? All about the branding?
Sure it is. We got 20-something other programs. The athletic department's got to pay for. Football pays for everything. They had nothing. If you're a businessman, you came in and looked at all these other sports and you were thinking of it as a business. You'd cut every one of them because they don't make any money. They sell a few tickets to the game, but they don't cover their expenses. Football pays for everything. And going to the SEC versus the Big 12, probably the difference is about $22 million. So I remember when Frank Broyles called me and told me I was coaching in Oklahoma, and he called me. They told me Arkansas was going to go to the SEC. And I said, Frank, obviously it's not because you think you can win an SEC. He says, no, it's all about money. He says, when I sign them, I'll probably make $6, $7, $8 million more a year. And that was back in the 70s or late 70s. And beginning, I guess, early 80s when they went to SEC. But it was so long ago that the money was the same. The difference is today, the value of the day, $22 million. You know what I mean? It's just, it'll be able
crazy money.
It'll be able to pay for all the other programs. Help. If you're an AD, obviously you got to make that decision because it's the right business decision.
What do you think about players finally getting to be paid for their likeness? And,
I tell you what,
cash in on that.
I think about the repercussions. Open Pandora's box here. I think about all the things that we didn't even know it causes yet. Dissension on the football team. It allows, the worst thing it does, it allows a third party to go into a recruit's home and tell them, I can get you more if you sign with this school than you do with that school. You know what I mean? For your autograph. Things like that an agent, a professional agent's going to tell them, but that a coach can't, and obviously can influence them more than maybe a coach that's busting his rear end to try to recruit a kid that's at a school that's not quite as good as some other schools and record-wise. So therefore, NCAA has no control of that. The NCAA is about to lose all control, and hell, I don't even know if we need them anymore.
Yeah, well, that's well put because that's definitely the credibility is I think is shrunk as we get into this because I don't think anyone knows what they do. Hey, Coach, I really appreciate you hopping on here, and my last parting question would be, and I had Coach Jimmy Johnson on. We talked about him, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, how do you want to be remembered?" Everyone asks you, it's kind of a cliche-ish question, right? But how would you want people to remember you? I mean, people, as I mentioned, they love you. I mean, you've had so much success. I mean, you built that palace along with some other great coaches and everything. But what would be the narrative for Barry Switzer be?
Hey, I just want to be remembered what kind of guy I was, how I treated them. I've always said we're all judged by how we present ourselves and treat people in our lives, and it's always sometimes the first impression that does it. So you better do that along the way. It's how you treat people and present yourself to them and how you treat people. And it's always best to be nice and a good guy than someone who's arrogant, aloof, and obstinate and all that. So it doesn't cost you a damn thing, and the rewards are greatly for you.
Are you excited about the OU Nebraska? I mean, I know Nebraska.
No, it's not the same thing. No,
it's not.
Back in our era, it was the winner of our game won the Big 8 Conference Championship and went on the Orange Bowl to play for the national championship. And that's what happened in the 70s and 80s, because the Orange Bowl won 13 national championships. It was determined in the Orange Bowl for the play and the winner of that game, because Nebraska and Oklahoma have done that. And it's always the game, because it was the last game played on television, the last game seen of the year, because it was January the 1st, let NBC, the last game played. But hell, you play so many games today, so many bowl games and playoffs today, it's not the truth anymore. You don't see that anymore. So that was the era, and that's what it was like then, and that's what we miss.
I'd be remiss. This is the last one. What's predictions for how will OU finish this year?
How will OU finich? I think they should win the championship. The Big 12.
I sure hope you're right, Coach.
Yeah, I think they will. We'll be able to play in the first tier of the SEC. Oklahoma will be good enough to do that. No one's as good as Alabama right now, and but we'll be able to play with Georgia and Florida and all them. Hell, we beat the hell out of Florida in our bowl game. So it's we'll be good enough to play with that bunch.
All right, Coach. Hey, I cannot thank you enough for being on my podcast.
I'll send you my invoice, Tony. Pay me.
I'll send you that $100 of shares that you got in your coaching box that you didn't cash in. Okay.
All right. Okay, buddy.
I love you, bud.